The podcast to me feels like I'm having a conversation with you guys, my subscribers, and you guys almost feel like my co-hosts. If you guys join our Discord community, you guys can actually contribute to the topics we will discuss on this podcast. Every time before I film a new episode of the podcast, I will be going to Discord to ask you guys to submit your suggestions, which some of you guys already did, right? So thank you to Paris on Discord for submitting a lot of today's topics. And I would say the main topic I want to talk about today is the new sun filter or the UV filter in America. Welcome back to Beauty B-Side. I am your host, Ray. Let's get right to today's episode. Before we dive right in, let's just do a little wellness check. How are you guys? Please let me know in the comments. How are you feeling? Like your honest answer, not just, I'm good. How are you, right? Tell me your honest answer. How are you feeling? I'll start. I am feeling a little overwhelmed about a lot of things in this world, things that are happening in my life, and just also content. I feel like my content game has been very dwindling, and I kind of mentioned this in my other videos where a lot of brands have removed me from their PR list because I am just simply too honest with my opinions about their products, but also just like my opinions on a lot of things that are political in this world. And I am someone who is very highly political. And if you guys didn't know that, now you know. If you guys don't like that, well, I'm sorry. I'm not going to change myself for anyone. That's how I'm feeling right now. I'm just a little overwhelmed, a little lost at the moment, but this podcast kind of keeps me in a state of feeling like I at least belong somewhere, or I can feel like I can speak freely because it is my channel. Yeah, I have nothing to lose at this point, so that's how I feel. But I want to know how you guys are feeling. Let me know in the comments of this podcast episode. How are you feeling? Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to discuss the new UV filter that the US FDA finally approved just earlier this month. I believe it was like June 1st they approved it, or maybe like June 3rd. Very, very early in June. And I'm excited. It's been a long time coming. Like it's literally been too long of a time coming, right? The last time the US FDA approved a UV filter was 1999, and I'm also a 90s baby, so it's been nearly 30 years, and we finally have a new UV filter, which is kind of wild. Like I mentioned this in my other video, in my previous episode of this podcast. It is kind of wild to me how it feels like the US FDA and also currently at this current political climate, US Department of Health is literally doing everything they can to us. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on this channel. I guess I'll bleep that word out. But I honestly, that's how I feel. I feel like the US Department of not education, the US Department of Health is not doing its due diligence in making sure US citizens, Americans, are being taken care of, like truly being taken care of. I feel like we're just constantly being taken advantage of over being taken care of. And on top of that, the US FDA, I just feel like they're a joke at this point. I feel like they're a structure that's put in place to really control the type of drugs and food that we can consume. And it's not to say that they're doing a great job at that either. I feel like a lot of things that are being sold in this country, that are being manufactured and made in terms of food or drugs, are actually just doing more long-term harm to us than they are actually nutritious or actually beneficial for our bodies. And this is truly my criticism of the US FDA. I just don't think that we're a country that has a really strong fortifying FDA compared to other countries out there. And I feel like it's always been a myth when it comes to how much the quote unquote US government has been trying to do good by the people here. I think it's kind of false. But anyways, long story short, 30 or nearly 30 years later, we finally have a new UV filter. I literally looked this up like just hours before filming this because I feel like I wanted to talk about it. Just kind of like almost like my first reaction to all of this happening. And I know it's been almost a month since the approval of this UV filter, but I haven't had time to actually look into it. And honestly, I feel like as much as I was looking forward to getting a new UV filter approved by the FDA, maybe it's because it's been so long that I've just been like unfazed by any of these changes. Like I know it's coming, so by the time it happened, I wasn't like fully, truly like wowed by it. Like, yeah, we approved one filter among so many great ones out there already in Asia and also in Australia and also in the UK. And so, yeah, excuse me for not overreacting or just being too gung-ho about it, because I'm just like, this is literally the bare minimum, y'all. UV filter that was approved was called bemotrizonal. In long form, or the longer name or the full name is biethylhexyloxyphenol methoxyphenyltriazine. That's why we call it BEMT for short. But we also know this as Tinosorb S. And as you may know, Tinosorb S, or I guess another way to call it is the parasol shield. I think that's kind of like the layman's term. Like if you want to tell people that, oh, we have a new UV filter, instead of going like, oh, we have BEMT, we can say we now have parasol shield, which I think is a really cheesy name, to be honest, but I don't care. We have a new UV filter and it's something we've been asking for so long. So at this point, we'll make all the jokes we want, okay? The BEMT, also known as Tinosorb S, is actually a UV filter that we've been having in K-Beauty, right? And I say K-Beauty because a lot of you guys subscribe to this channel because of K-Beauty, but also a lot of Japanese skincare also has Tinosorb S. And I am excited. So now my question is, now that we have Tinosorb S or BEMT as an approved UV filter, all the Korean sunscreens that were reformulated for the US that have been brought over to the US to sell in places like Olive Young US, right? Or any kind of like, retailers that are official. So for example, like our Round Lab sunscreen, does that mean that we get to switch back to the original formula? Because the original formula has Tinosorb S, and that was one of the UV filters that were not allowed in US. So does it mean that we get to reformulate the reformulated UV filter or the US version sunscreen of Round Lab's Birch Juice sunscreen? Because that's one of my favorite sunscreens. Does that mean that we get to have a closer formula to the original one? Because now that we have this approved UV filter, right? That's my question. I also looked up really quickly the types of Korean sunscreens that had to be reformulated before they got brought over to the US, and they're all from Colmar, or most of them are from Colmar. I don't know about the last one actually. So we have Round Lab's Birch Juice Moisturizing Sun Cream, which is my favorite one. That one has Tinosorb S, among other UV filters. So I'm guessing, if anything, we still can't have the original formula because there are still other UV filters in that sunscreen that cannot be, or that isn't approved by the US FDA yet. So I guess we can't have completely original sunscreen by Round Lab. Then there's also the Beauty of Chosun Relief Sun Rice and Probiotics, which is, the most famous sunscreen that Beauty of Chosun ever released. That one also has Tinosorb S, but also has the same UV filters or similar UV filters as Round Labs, which means that we still can't get the original formula, which is fine. I feel like the Beauty of Chosun US version isn't too bad. It is a little thicker, but I feel like it's not as bad as like the other ones that were reformulated, because I think the Beauty of Chosun one still maintained the SPF 50, whereas the Round Lab one had to drop down to 45, which is really my only gripe. The US version of the Round Lab sunscreen, actually, as I kept using it, has a nicer finish. I'm actually wearing it today. It has a nicer finish than the original formula, but the original formula gives you like full, like really good protection from 50 plus to PA4 pluses, whereas the US version, it's literally like SPF 45 and broad spectrum, and that's kind of it. It's not bad. It's just that, again, I keep saying this, right? If I can get SPF 50, why would I settle for SPF 45? That's just kind of like my math in my head. I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me logically, realistically, financially. Then there's also Skin 1004, the Madagascar Centella Hyaluronic Water Fit Sun Serum, one of my favorite sunscreens ever. That one also has Tinosorb S. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much reformulation had happened to this particular sunscreen because I have used both of them, and because the US one that I've used doesn't really say broad spectrum unless I haven't really truly used it, but I noticed the texture difference, right, with the Korean one and the US version. And what I noticed is that they are very similar. So to me, the formulation hasn't changed completely. So I'm not too worried about this one. This one, I feel like whether or not they reformulate, I'm gonna be okay with it. As long as it's SPF 50 plus PA4 pluses, I'll be okay. So I'm not too worried about the Skin 1004. Then there's also How to Wonders Black Rice Moisture Airy Fit Daily Sunscreen that also has Tinosorb S. I haven't used this sunscreen for too long, or long enough for me to make a judgment call. So I'm not too sure where I stand with this. If we get a better formulation, great. From what I've heard, people really like the sunscreen. I'm guessing there, people who like the sunscreen are talking about both versions, because I haven't heard anything bad about the US version of the How to Wonder. And I'm guessing it's because their formula might be very, very similar. I think How to Wonder is one of those brands where they were first released not really to a Korean audience. They were literally created and then they were just kind of like dumped on the US audience. So it really was made for the US FDA's approval anyway. And so I'm not too, concerned about this one. I had to pause because I wanted to grab the sunscreens that I just talked about, or some of them at least. So I do have here Skin 1004. This one has not truly been reformulated. I guess I don't have the US version on me at this place because this is the original Korean one, because this is made by Komar Korea. Regardless, I'm not going to be too worried about this one because tried this one in stores, which would be the US version. Not much of a difference. I feel like they did a pretty good job in terms of like keeping the formula very similar, which kind of makes me wonder like why can't Round Lab do the same thing? Speaking of, this one is a Round Lab sunscreen, right? We all love her so much. At least I do. I know some of you guys are like, it's too good, greasy, it's too, shiny or whatever. I love it. Okay. This one truly gives me like that glowy, dewy glow. Oh, I love it so much. But this one is also the Korean one. The US version I have in my bathroom, and if you guys want to check the difference, I do have like a bunch of videos on my channel if you guys want to check out what the true differences are. But I have the Korean one here, and this one also has Tinosorb S, but also like the really good filters that play alongside the Tinosorb S, which is the US approved sunscreen filter that recently happened. So I'm excited for this one. Now there's one more that I didn't mention earlier, and it is the Isntree Sun Gel, the hyaluronic watery sun gel. This one is also one of my holy grails, and I was really sad when this one was reformulated for the US. And now that, Tinosorb S is approved, does that mean that we can finally get a formula that's closer to this one? Because this is my last, I think, yeah, this is my last original Korean version of this sunscreen, and I don't want to spend money on buying the US version, because the US version I believe is like SPF 45 or no, SPF 40. There are multiple versions, but the one that's closest to this one I believe is SPF 40. If it's not 40, it might be 30, which is like, whoa, why are we going lower than 40 at this point? I was so mad and confused at the same time when that happened. But yeah, another sunscreen that I really, really like, and this one's by Isntree. My other question now is, now that we have this new UV filter that's been approved by the FDA, how long will it take for us to finally see some kind of results, right? Or when will we finally see new sunscreens come into the market, like both American, other international sunscreens, including Korea and Japan and, Taiwan and stuff? When will we start seeing new formulas on US soil that we can actually purchase without having to pay the high taxes and the high tariffs, I should say? Because, our president is a total loser. I'm questioning when we will get these new sunscreens with these new UV filters. And I wonder how, Tinosorb S is going to play alongside the current filters that we do have approved, like since before 1999. And, how well will this new filter gel with the older filters? Because this one truly is the one filter that doesn't give you a white cast. And that's why I love this filter so much. So yeah, I wonder how long that's going to take. And then there's also the question of, while we wait for new formulas to come out, or new reformulation to come out for these, I'm going to keep it, contained within K-Beauty. If we're going to wait until these reformulated Korean sunscreens to get reformulated with the new UV filters that's been approved, and I'm assuming that's going to take a while. I don't think it's going to take like a couple of months. It might just take like a year or two. So in the meantime, where can we still shop for Korean sunscreens with the original Korean sunscreen filter formula? I would say my best bet right now is YesStyle. I still shop there a lot as a consumer, and not just as like a content creator. But on top of them sending me products sometimes, I do also shop for my own sunscreens. Like the Round Lab that I just showed you guys, the Skin 1004 and the Isntree one. I bought those all on YesStyle. And the reason why I say YesStyle is because YesStyle had lowered their minimum shipping requirement to, I believe, $35, or is it 40? I think it's 35. And then on top of that, they do have, like I said, they do have the original Korean formulas, and they have that, they have those, but they also have like the international versions. So like they have the UK versions, they have the US versions for some select products, not all of them. So that's why I like shopping at YesStyle for sunscreens nowadays, because they do have bundles as well, whereas you don't really get bundles on Amazon or Olive Young US, right? Because we're stuck in the US here, so we can't use the global site. But yeah, YesStyle is the only place I feel like I can still rely on, and I'm praying that I can keep relying on them, because I can't imagine literally can't imagine life without YesStyle and their international shipping and their original formulation from Asia, their low cost of shipping requirements. So fingers crossed. I really hope that YesStyle can, last long. But yeah, YesStyle is kind of like where I go to for Korean skincare and just like Asian skincare. Sometimes I buy like Biore sunscreen from there. Actually, no, I do buy. I only buy my Japanese Biore sunscreen from YesStyle actually, because I can't remember buying it anywhere else unless it's like an actual store. If you do shop like at Tesso, Ebisu, if you live in New York or in America, those places now have all shifted to carrying only the US sunscreens because they don't want to get in trouble. I get it. Actually, no, you know what? I think I've seen Tesso carry original Korean Round Lab sunscreen. I don't know if that's like their last batch, but I remember seeing that actually. There's also a store in K Town in New York called Collection. I saw the Isntree original formula over there. I only saw the Round Lab US version over there. So it's kind of like a mix. And that's why I like YesStyle, honestly. Like, I know we should be supporting local businesses like, brick and mortar stores because you want to contribute to your local community. In this economy, I'm totally fine with just like going straight to online retailers and online e-commerce sites like YesStyle because not only do you get better pricing, you also just get it straight from the warehouse. I have this thing where I'm like, ever since COVID happened, I had this ick about like shopping skincare in stores because people touch everything. And then when I bring it home, I'm like, now I don't want to touch my purchases anymore because it just feels icky. So I do like the fact that when I buy from YesStyle, it ships directly from the warehouse to my house. And then, if anything, I'm the first person to touch those products except for the person packing it. But, my logic and my OCD, I guess, in my head is like the warehouses to me feels more sterile than just a bunch of strangers in New York City touching, manhandling, with their snotty fingers. And let me tell you, New Yorkers, no, I shouldn't even blame on New Yorkers because New Yorkers, as much of a bad rep we get, I think we are pretty clean people. I'm talking about like a lot of the tourists who come to New York. I don't care where you come from. They be like rubbing their nose, touching the mouth, touching their eyes, and then they be touching products on the shelves. And then I'm like, ooh. So I saw a lot that happen at like Collection. I saw that happen at like Tesso. And then every time I see that, I'm just like reminded how I'm like, I don't want to buy this anymore because like people have touched all of these. Like, I don't know, where these products have been. I should say, I don't know where these people have been. And then touching their faces and touching their products. And then now I have to like buy it and then bring it home. And now I'm like, oh, do I have to disinfect the product? I don't know. That's just a long way of saying that's the reason why I like shopping online, especially with YesStyle. And I've been shopping with YesStyle since like 2017. So it's been like 9 years plus. So I haven't had really bad experiences with them, except for maybe one order over the course of the 9 years that was kind of like iffy. And I got a refund for it. So I was totally fine with the outcome. But yeah, I would say you can trust YesStyle. People have been saying Stylevana. Personally, haven't shopped on Stylevana before. And I've heard things about Stylevana, even though they have really good pricing. I feel like Stylevana, ethically as a company, has stolen a lot of designs, like their website and everything, from like other companies out there. And so because of that, I just like question their sense of ethics. And to me, as a consumer, that's kind of important to me. It might not be important to you, but it's important to me. So I don't really shop with Stylevana. There's also Style Korean. Now, I have always been a long-term supporter of Style Korean. They do have really good pricing a while ago. I think recently a lot of their management has changed and now they're really like money driven as opposed to like really building community, which is how I saw Style Korean back then. Now Style Korean just feels like, they just want to grab money as much as possible, which I get, okay? They are a company, they're a business. It makes sense that, the people owning the company or the people with the highest stocks in the company want to be able to make as much money as they can. I get it, but then as a consumer, I also can feel disappointed, right? And so I noticed with Style Korean, a lot of their products no longer feel like they're priced in a more reasonable way. Back then, you can get like Be the Skin sunscreen for like $8, $10. Now you have to pay like 15, 16. And honestly, it's a really big turnoff, Style Korean. Style Korean also did a lot of like, what was it? I think they used to. Oh yeah, the one thing I loved about Style Korean back then is that they always shipped with DHL, and now I think they ship with another company. They switched to UPS for a while, and then UPS really screwed things up for shoppers and for influencers. So because of that, I think they switched over to FedEx. I don't know if that's any better. Honestly, I hate FedEx. I hate UPS. I love DHL actually. I think they are the most professional. They give me like updates every time, wherever they are. They text me, they email me, so I know exactly where my package is. With the UPS, it's kind of like, everything's up in the air, you know? And then FedEx, forget about it. FedEx, I can never track anything with FedEx. Never, nothing. There's also a company called iHerb or iHerb. I guess I call it iHerb, but then like some people call it iHerb. I don't know where they're based. I thought they were based in the UK, but recently I found out that they might not be based in the UK. I get ads from iHerb a lot, and they're in Chinese. So I'm like, I don't know where this company comes from. But I do know that they have like authentic Korean skincare. Do I know if they have Korean sunscreens that are the Korean formula? I do not. But for the most part, I think like a lot of their K-beauty are truly just like the original K-beauty formula, like toner pads, toner, moisturizers, essences, whatever, right? Sunscreen wise, I think they might still carry the original versions. I don't think they carry like the US versions because they're not just shipping to the US, they ship to all different countries as well. iHerb also comes up on my channel a lot as like an automated what's it called, like YouTube shopping experience. Like sometimes you watch my videos, you'll see like those little bubbles that pop up that tells you like what product I'm talking about. Those are all auto-generated from YouTube. I didn't do anything, like they just pop up. And I noticed that a lot of times iHerb is the one that pops up the most, so they seem legit. I haven't shopped from them, so I can't really confirm. I have a very small window of like where I shop for skincare, honestly. Like my go-to is always YesStyle, and then it used to be Style Korean, and then when Style Korean opened up Moida, which is like their international, or like their international brick and mortar store, don't really like Moida. I feel like they're just very similar to any kind of like beauty store out there, so there's really no deals for me or no reason for me to go to Moida. If you're based, I believe they're a US company. It's a company, it's a website called Olali. That's actually where I used to get all my like Pyeongchang Yul products, like before we had Style Korean, before we had like really convenient style. I used to shop at Olali, but I feel like they mark up the prices a lot. I would buy a Pyeongchang Yul essence toner for $16 on Olali, but I can find it for like $10 on YesStyle. Obviously, I'm gonna go to YesStyle. Olali is nice if you want a very small selection of K-beauty products like you would normally use. They probably will have it, like the most popular ones. If you live in LA, I highly recommend going to PlayLab Beauty. It's like a individually owned store, I believe. If you check their Instagram, they always post like the two founders of the company just talking and yapping about the different K-beauty products that they enjoy using. And then they also do a lot of deep dives in terms of like what Koreans are really using. Not that that matters to me at all, because I don't think just because a Korean person uses it, it's going to be automatically better than what I'm using. Like I love my Skin 1004 sunscreen, even though Koreans don't even know what that is. I personally love it, and it's still my holy grail sunscreen, and it doesn't subtract from the fact that it's a great product even though Koreans don't use it. So I don't know why people use that argument all the time, but I do enjoy PlayLab in terms of like the transparency and how they, what their thought process is in terms of getting the products on their shelves. So if you live in Pasadena, I think they're located directly across from Olive Young US, the store. So between those two, I would always go to PlayLab, or I would prefer to go to PlayLab. I haven't been there yet. I haven't been to LA, 16 years, I think, maybe longer than that. But yeah, those are the places that I do recommend in terms of buying skincare online. Definitely be safe and be very diligent about doing your own research as well to make sure that you're not being scammed by scammers on the internet, right? Because there are, websites that claim to be selling K-beauty, but then they might not carry real authentic products, or they might be like, hiking up the price, hoping that you don't realize it because you don't check other websites. Cross-reference, check multiple websites at once at the same time, have multiple browsers and windows open of different websites, and just compare the prices. Get the average of what you might be paying as a total cost, and then decide where you want to shop at. That's what I normally would do. Hopefully this helps, but this is the end of today's episode. It is a pretty short episode too. I'm so sorry. I don't really have a lot to talk about. Hoping episode 4 would be a longer episode, because there is something I do want to talk about, which is skincare and children. Should children use skincare? And I wrote an article about it recently, or I guess it's not recently anymore. It was like earlier this year, like end of last year, early this year. I wrote an article about how children are being kind of like encouraged into the world of skincare at such a young age. And so I want to talk about that a little bit more in this podcast. So that will be episode 4. So I'll see you guys over there. In the meantime, I will leave all my YesStyle links and my discount code there in the description. And if you guys want to shop anything, feel free to use my code. I earn a small commission, but you guys hopefully get to save a lot. But yeah, all the information will be in the description box below. I'm also going to have the discount code somewhere on the screen. But thank you again for tuning into this episode of Beauty B-Side. Once again, I'm your host. See you guys in the next video. Be safe, stay hydrated, and most importantly, be gentle with yourself. 안녕. Come back for more 주세요.